Hello, I'm Gil Zilkha. Welcome to Essential Classical Music. This video is taken from my larger video on the consensus reference recordings of the core classical music repertoire. Not my choices, but rather the collective critical consensus that has filtered down through the years, across generations, across continents, to which you have also contributed. And if you agree with my choices, or if you think the consensus lies elsewhere, as always, feel free to comment, and I hope you enjoy it. And we are starting with Franz Schubert and his unfinished symphony, Symphony No. 8. And maybe it should be called the unfinished reference recordings, because this one is like the Mendelssohn Italian Symphony. It's a little hard to find one that stands out from the rest. I would say that there are two, and sort of conducted in contrasting styles, recorded not too long apart from each other, that get the most critical attention. One is from our old buddy Carlos Kleiber with the Vienna Philharmonic, recorded in the late 70s. Of course, anything Kleiber does is going to get attention. And this is more on the as Kleiber tended to do, it's on the more kind of dramatic, kind of more quicker paced. And then you have this version from Giuseppe Sinopoli and the Philharmonia, recorded just a few years later, that this is really considered maybe Sinapoli's greatest recording, also coupled with a very good Mendelssohn Italian Symphony. And Sinopoli took his time a little bit more with it. It's a little bit more probing. So the two kind of complement each other in that regard. I think if there are reference recordings for the unfinished symphony, these are probably the two closest that I could center on. And then for the ninth, for this one, I think we have an older recording in mono, although not too far back mono, recorded in 1951, that has held sway all these decades to where I think you can call it the reference still today. And that's Wilhelm Furtwängler's recording with the Berlin Philharmonic, one of the most universally praised of all of Furtwängler's recordings, not just for the interpretation, but also the sound quality. And I think this is still today the Symphony No. 9 of reference choice, although there are certainly many other really good ones. Now we come to Schubert's chamber music, and I'm going to start with his Trout Quintet. This is a version which, strangely enough, is harder to find these days, but I think is still considered the classic version. Clifford Curzon, with members of the Vienna Octet, recorded in the late 50s fairly well with Decca. Again, with chamber music, it's a little harder to center on a particular classic standard version, but I think this is the closest we have with the Trout Quintet. With the string quintet, which is considered by most people to be Schubert's masterpiece, one of the greatest masterpieces in the entire chamber music genre, really. This one's difficult. It's really difficult to center on one reference version. And actually, I would say that the closest we have are these two recordings that both are recorded in mono, one studio and one live. But I think they both are so valued artistically that they can be considered reference choices still today. One is the Hollywood String Quartet version from 1951, coupled incidentally with their fantastic recording of Schoenberg's Verklärte Nacht. By the way, why don't they put out like EMI? You should put out a Hollywood String Quartet box tomorrow. I mean, this was one of the greatest chamber music groups in recorded history, and you have to dig and find them on Testament, and they're really hard to find, and it shouldn't be so hard to find. Just please do it. Okay, little request there. And then also, okay, going now to another reference version for the string quintet. Just from the next year, we have this live version from the Pradas Festival Pablo Casal's festival. And the five soloists are Isaac Stern and Alexander Schneider on violin, Milton Katims is the violist, and then Casals and Paul Tortelier on cello. So a star-studded cast and just an incredible performance. I mean, it's not often that we have a reference recording that's a live recording, so that just tells you how highly regarded this is, that it's so widely praised. So I would say these are the two that we have. It's not a slam dunk. Preferably, we would have a better sounding reference version, but and there have been a lot of really good ones. It's just harder to find one that stands out from the field. So I think we revert back to these two. Now, one more chamber work for Schubert. Of course, I'm not going to leave out the string quartet number 12, The Death and the Maiden. Oh, did I say 12? I mean 14. The Death and the Maiden Quartet. And first we have the old granddaddy version from the 30s, just like with the Beethoven string quartets, the Busch Quartet. This one still is today considered artistically, one you have to hear. And then for modern times, or stereo times at least, I would say this version from the 60s, the Quartetto Italiano. This one is also considered an iconic version. Next we have, I'm going to discuss his most famous piano work, the final piano sonata number 21, or D 960 if you're into the you have Mozart, you have Kerschel numbers. For Bach, you have BWV numbers. Everyone else, you have opus numbers, but with Schubert, it's the D. The D960. And for this one, we do have, again, a granddaddy version. And this is going to be just like the Beethoven sonatas. You have Arthur Schnabel's recording from the late 30s, which is artistically, just like with the Beethoven sonatas, universally regarded as artistically insightful. And then you have, just like with the Beethoven sonatas, you have Wilhelm Kempff as the later version. This is a stereo recording from the 60s that is also really highly regarded. And this is such a wonderful sonata. It's had a lot of other great recordings as well. But I would say these two are probably the two kind of reference standout-y types. So that's the piano sonata. One more work for Schubert is his iconic song cycle, Winterreise. And for this one, we have, I think, two. We have, first of all, Hans Hotter with Gerald Moore. This was recorded in the 50s. It's barely mono. I think it was recorded, just like a year before the advent of stereo. But it sounds pretty good. Very highly regarded. And then you have to have one of the Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau versions. The question is which one? And that's a very hard question to answer. I think it really came down to a question of whether you choose the Gerald Moore version from the early 60s on EMI or the one with George Demus on Deutsche Grammophon a couple years later. I'm going to go with the Demus. Maybe because it's slightly better recorded, maybe because it's issued as part of the originals. You hear about this a little bit more often. It definitely caught Fischer-Dieskau's voice at its absolute peak. So you can't go wrong with that one or the Moore. Or, of course, the Hans Hotter version from a decade earlier. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, I hope you'll also take time to click the like and subscribe buttons. And with that, I want to wish you all a great day and happy listening.